Lesson 26, Science 7, and today we're going to think a little deeper about inheritance, beyond mental. Grab your pencil, your journal slip, and your science journal. So here's a related phenomenon for you. I was at a pet store recently, and I overheard a store owner talking. He had bred two parent rabbits. Both were a beautiful black color. And while he was showing off these parents, I heard the owner say, "These two rabbits just had a litter of kits, baby bunnies. But here's the thing. I'd really like to know what's with the chocolate fur on some of the babies. The parents are all black, not a spot of brown, but some of their baby kits are chocolate brown. How did this happen?" Now, I kid you not, some children attempted to answer the owner's question. I heard one child say, "Hey, maybe it's like those snowshoe rabbits I read about that turn white every winter to camouflage themselves against the white snow. Maybe the bunnies came out with brown fur because the weather caused the change." The second child said, "No, maybe it's like mixing paint colors together. You take the parents' fur colors, blend them together, and voila, you get something in between." Then a third kid said, "And you get 6 black kits and 2 brown kits? That can't be right. I think maybe the color of the fur is made by a chemical. The mother has a limited amount of chemical to make into color. Maybe she ran out of black. So the last baby bunnies were born kinda faded out." And then this older kid piped up real loud and said, "Wait, I know. The brown ones have got to be mutants. They were zapped by aliens or something." Now, when I heard that one, I almost laughed out loud. And then another kid said, "I think it has something to do with your grandparents. I have blue eyes, and my mom says my grandfather had blue eyes, and blue eyes skipped a generation. She always says, for me to have blue eyes, someone in a previous generation had to have the trait. Maybe fur color in rabbits works the same way." So what do you think? Which of these 5 theories or explanations do you think could explain why some baby rabbits came out with brown fur even though the parents didn't have a speck of brown? Why do you think this? Defend your position with the best evidence and reasoning you have right now to this point. Do this now on your journal slip. To understand how offspring can end up with traits that their parents don't have, let's look back to Mendel's experiments in the garden. This just might give us the evidence we need to figure out this pet store phenomenon. Now, as we discussed, we'll learn some new terms. Make sure to write the meanings on your journal slip. They'll come up in red font. Now, in our simulation, we used paper chromosomes. We used uppercase T to represent the tall gene and lowercase t to represent the short gene. These were 2 different versions of the trait for height. We call these different versions of genes alleles. There's a tall allele and a short allele. Make sure to write this meaning on your journal slip. Now, in that first generation of plants, one plant was pure for the trait of tall, and the other was pure for the trait of short. We say this because each plant had 2 of the same genes or alleles. We might also say that these plants were homozygous. When we mated these plants, we saw that all of them came out tall. This was because no matter which gene a parent passed on, the resulting gene combination was always the same. Here, look. But why did these offspring look tall? I mean, they do have one short gene. Well, this is because the tall gene is a dominant allele. As long as the offspring inherits at least one dominant allele, the trait of tallness shows. The short gene, on the other hand, is considered recessive. Even though the offspring had inherited a short gene, it was being hidden by the dominant one. But when we mated these hybrid plants together, or these heterozygous plants together, we saw something special happen. We saw that some of the offspring in the 3rd generation were coming out short. Here, look. Right here, one of the possibilities is to have a short offspring. Hey, let's look at a family tree of pea plants. We can see the physical appearance or phenotype of the plants. And it seems like shortness skipped the generation right here, because there's no short offspring. Why did that happen? Well, let's inspect the genotype, or the gene combination of the plants. The trait of shortness didn't really disappear. The short allele right here was just being hidden by the dominant one. And when these hybrid plants produced offspring, sometimes by chance the parents each passed their short allele, so that some of the baby plants came out short, even though the parent plants didn't look short at all. You know what? I'm starting to think that grandparent theory is the best working idea to help us explain our pet store phenomenon. Just like we saw with Mendel's plants, recessive genes can be hidden in one generation, but then reappear in the next generation. Huh. You know, there are probably two versions of the gene for fur color, black fur and brown fur. And it seems like black fur must be dominant over brown fur, because black fur is showing up in every generation, but brown fur is skipping this generation right here. Do you think you can figure out the genotype or gene combinations of each bunny in this family tree? Take a moment to do this on your own. Fill in the missing gene combinations. Really try. You'll be surprised what you can figure out. Pause the screencast now and do this. Okay, let's start at the bottom. Since brown fur is recessive, the only way for this bunny to have brown fur is to have two recessive genes. Now, the bunny must have inherited these genes from his parents. So this parent bunny must be heterozygous and have one dominant and one recessive gene. And so must this bunny. And that means that over here, this grandparent bunny must also be heterozygous. And so this recessive allele was being passed through the generations. It's just that this recessive allele was getting hidden in this generation, but then reappeared here. Now that you have all the evidence, construct your own explanation in your own words, answering this question. How can children inherit traits that are different from their parents? Just like we saw with the rabbits and Mendel's pea plants. For today, I need you to submit your journal slip. And then I want you to go to the discussion board and post your answer to that question, making sure to respond to a peer. Until tomorrow, keep thinking, keep learning, and keep thinking about inheritance.